The United States military has abandoned its wokeness. We're going to cover that here today and more. All the breaking news on my live radio show of Speechless. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, everybody. We will be right back onto the radio soon, but I want to let you know if you notice new music at the beginning of that, it's because YouTube has started copyright violating me, even though I had a license through Canva to use my other song. But now I have to use YouTube's free music for my stuff like that. So, yep, screw tube, at it again. But we got a lot to talk about here today, guys, and I'm so happy you're here with me. We're going to cover a lot once we get here live on the radio. And don't forget, everybody, to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment what you think, and share it with your friends so that they can all see just what's going on. Are we nearing World War III? We might be. All right. We're going to get onto the radio here in like 30 seconds. Hey, Bloomington Normal. Welcome back to Speechless. I'm your host, Phares, 22-year-old conservative college student from Illinois State University, and I will be graduating in just like a month, which is crazy to me. It's led me to do a lot of reflecting, and I'm going to do some of that here on the show today. But this is the news and talk of Bloomington Normal and beyond, and I say beyond because you guys can go check us out. If you're not driving right now, I don't want to ever encourage this when you're driving or anything like that, but you can go check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and Rumble. All you got to do is look up Cities 92.9 or Speechless with Kev, and you'll find me right there on YouTube, especially. Recently, I hit over 1,000 subscribers, and I want to thank everybody who has been following my radio show, following my content on YouTube, anything like that for a while. I really do appreciate you, and thank you so much. Other housekeeping is I want to make sure I give a big shout out to Paul Garcia Productions out of Central Illinois. Paul Garcia Productions creates stunning and effective video advertisements for local businesses, even local government. And so if you want your business to get more business, don't forget to check out Paul Garcia Productions today. But I got a lot to cover here on the show today. World War III, are we nearing it? Why is our military going away from wokeness? Yeah, they really are. They're going away from wokeness. But I also want to start off today's show by giving a special thank you to all of our veterans out there. Yesterday was Veterans Day, and those who have sacrificed all for our country deserve to be recognized. All of our veterans, thank you so much for all you do. And I hope that this Veterans Day, you were able to, for those that are with us and the families of those veterans that have fallen due to their service. I thank all of you, and I hope that you were able to have a wonderful Veterans Day. And we've had beautiful weather here in Central Illinois, so I'm sure that there was definitely opportunities for everyone to celebrate and reflect on Veterans Day. But Veterans Day is not only the holiday of which it is also an anniversary for me. It's an anniversary of when I was assaulted by a professor. This is one thing that a lot of people might know about me. If you're on YouTube or something like that, I don't know. I don't remember how much I've really talked about this. It's not something I always like to bring up, but it is something that catapulted me further into conservative activism. So Veterans Day 2019 is a very interesting day for me. As many of you know, I've been the president and founder of the Turning Point chapter, Turning Point USA at Illinois State University since 2019. And I was back then trying to raise awareness that this club was getting going. How was I doing that? Well, I was hanging posters everywhere. I was starting our social media. I was trying to find members as well as executive board members, and even a faculty advisor is one thing I was looking for heavily. It took me a long time to find a faculty advisor, somebody who wanted to attach their name to a conservative organization. But nevertheless, I still was able to get it started up, even despite the fact that some took a very aggressive tone with me, not just tone, physical tone with me in my spreading awareness of this club. So, as I mentioned, one of the ways that I was getting the word out about Turning Point 4 years ago was by hanging posters around campus. One place specifically was Schrader Hall, because that's our poli-sci building. And so I was like, well, that'd be the best place to get people that want to be politically involved to be involved. So I hung posters up there, and I started noticing for a while that some of my posters across campus would get vandalized. People would write things on them, nasty things, things about me, and just terrible things. And so I would oftentimes, after I would go hang some up, I would wait a few hours, if not a day, and then go check on those posters again, see if they had been torn down or anything had been written on them. Well, I had hung one poster up in Schrader Hall that had somebody had written on it, private property is theft. The original poster said taxation is theft. Well, somebody wrote private property is theft on there. And so instead of trying to hang up a whole new poster or anything, because I didn't even have any on me when I went to check on it, I had a Sharpie that I went to cross out the private property is theft because it was some commie trying to spread some commie crap. While I was doing this, a professor walked past me. I could tell he was a professor, was not one of my professors, but I could tell he was, as his age was definitely noticeable. And he asked me what I was doing. And I said, well, I'm trying to start this Turning Point USA chapter here at Illinois State. I think it's great that we go to a campus that is supposed to support free speech. And so we should have the underrepresented group of conservatives have a voice on this campus and a collective. To which this professor says to me, enjoy hell. That's how it started. He told me, enjoy hell. A professor I had never met before, professor I didn't really know at all, a professor that interacts with students the majority of his day, told a student he did not know to enjoy hell. Well, then I go, excuse me? And he starts scurrying away. And so I kind of follow him. I'm like, this is inappropriate. I want to know who this guy is. I want to be able to tell his supervisor, tell people that this is the way that he interacts with a student that he doesn't even know. So I go to his office I find his office because I follow him and I see that he slams the door. And so I knock politely on it. And I go, sir, I know you're in there. I would like you to either apologize, tell me why you would say such a thing to a student you do not know, or I'm going to go to your supervisor about this, your department chair. I see his name on his little nameplate there. And so I hear typing in his office. So I once again knock and say the same thing. Please, sir, I'd like an apology, or at least a reasoning why you would tell a student that you do not know to enjoy hell. Once again, he typing away. Something's going on in there. I can hear that there's signs of life in his office. So when he doesn't answer, I go to take a picture of his nameplate so I don't forget who this guy is. And as I'm going to take the picture, I got my phone out. He opens the door and looks out. He must have assumed I had left. And he sees my phone and a trigger snaps in his brain, noticeably. He grabs my arm, tries to take my phone away from me. To which I'm trying to hit record because there's no cameras in this building, conveniently. And I can't even get to the record because he's grabbing my arm. And then when he realizes he's not going to be able to get my phone out of my hand, he wraps his arm around me and hip tosses me. 4 years ago, when I was a freshman at Illinois State University on Veterans Day, that happened. I was assaulted by a professor. Now, people often ask, didn't you sue? What happened? Okay, well, immediately after that, I had called one of my field representatives because I was in shock. I was in absolute shock. I was like, I can't believe I just got touched in any way by a professor, especially in an aggressive way like that. And so I called one of my field reps and I tell him exactly what happened. And he goes, you need to call your Illinois State University Police Department right now and let them know and file a statement, file a report. And I had never been through anything like this. I didn't know what the protocol was. I was again in shock. I was having a hard time catching my breath. So I called Illinois State University, the police department. Cops showed up within 30 minutes to an hour. While they were taking my statement, apparently he had also called and was giving a statement. To which they asked me at the time if I wanted to press charges. Once again, I was still in shock. I did not know. I didn't know what the implications of pressing charges were. I didn't know where this could go. I was just in shock. I had no one with me. I was alone with the police officer. I had no one. It was terrifying. So I told him I did not want to press charges because I didn't know what the legal battle would look like. I didn't know what kind of support system I would have. So I did not want to press charges, but I wanted a formal apology and I wanted uh, to talk to his department chair, and I wanted to talk with the president of the university about ideological tolerance on ISU's campus. I was just a freshman. People always say, you should have pressed charges. You should have pressed charges. And I think if it were to happen to me today, I absolutely would. There is no doubt in my mind. But I was just a freshman in college, fresh out of high school, just a few months out of high school. At the university that both my parents went to, the only school I applied to, because I was perfectly content going here, a school that I came to because I knew it would have to respect my free speech. And yet this happens. So I did not press charges on that professor. I did get a conversation with him in which I did get an apology. He also, I actually FOIA'd later as well for the police report of the incident, to which he claimed that I instigated the situation and that his physical force was necessary because I was threatening. The closest thing to a threat I said to this professor is, you told me to enjoy hell. I am going to talk to your department chair about this because of your actions. In no way does that warrant a physical response unless you are unhinged, deranged, and suffering greatly. 4 years ago. How far has our country come in 4 years? Where are we at now? Well, now it's not just professors. No, it wasn't just professors. Then now we have students who go up in arms, not only backing terrorists, but defying the United States, saying it's an awful place to be. What happened with this professor? Well, I want to make sure I stay on track, everybody, in this. What happened with this professor? This professor was not fired. He's tenured. I believe he still works there. Oh, and this is a fun part. He was a professor of sociology. A professor of sociology. And when you look at his About Me on the Illinois State University website, he's an ardent supporter of environmental justice and other social justice warrior causes. A beta male, if you ask me. I'll never forget, though, when I was sitting in the office with his department chair and him personally, and he goes through this whole thing about how he shows me, this is something he actually did, everybody. He shows me all of his professor reviews that happen at the end of each semester. He shows me all of them, to which he points out to comments such as, great professor, learned a lot, very open-minded. And then after he goes through all of this, he provides an apology. I'm given a chance to say something, to which I had been thinking this whole time about what do I actually have to say to this man that physically assaulted me and is now trying to show that it was just an isolated incident. He was just having a bad day. Well, I told him, I go, sir, I'm happy that a lot of your students in your classroom feel comfortable with you. But the fact of the matter is that if anybody were to ever ask me about you as a professor, I would tell them exactly what happened. I would tell them that even if only for an isolated incident, you showed not only a lack of tolerance, but a lack of dignity for your entire profession as a professor. What kind of professor? In what instance is it okay for a professor to lay their hands on a student? In what instance? I can only think of a few, and they are the most extreme of cases, and a disagreement politically is not one of them. To which I also followed up with him in this statement where I tell him, I go, I also want you to know that a lot of people would look at this and say, man, I had a crime committed against me for voicing my opinion, for trying to create a group of students with like minds to get a varying opinion on our college campus. A lot of people would look at that, at the instance of having a crime committed against you, and say, I'm done. I'm done. It's not worth it. I'm willing to bet that's what he wanted. He wanted me to quit. He would love nothing more than for me not to be on that campus, for me to not even be on this earth. I'm sure of that. Why else would he react in such a way? Telling a student to go to hell and then and then physically assaulting them and committing assault and battery against a student. What else? Why else? But I told him, I go, sir, this has motivated me more than ever. You doing this to me, I'm going to be here for the next 4 years and you will hear about me. You will know who I am, not because of this incident, because of the work I am going to do to combat the hatred that people like you have for people like me. That is what I am dedicating my time here to. And that's exactly what I did. That is exactly what I did. And that's why, again, I don't want to undercut the utmost thanks I have for those who have served our nation, both those that are still alive and those who have passed. Thank all of you. Thank your families for all of the work or all of the time that they had to have without you, whether that's an eternity or just time for service. I have thanks for all of that. But it just so happens that the anniversary of my assault, one of the biggest motivating times of my life to be more involved in conservative activism, also happened to fall on Veterans Day. And that is why I wanted to let you guys know that one of the reasons I'm here, one of the reasons you're listening to me on the radio, one of the reasons why you might be able to see me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, anything like that, is because of that professor. Nothing has motivated me more since that day. And that people like him and that one incident, even if it was just isolated as he would claim, curtailed my trajectory in life. So that's why I wanted to tell you guys that story. I have more military topics to discuss in the next segment, but I want you guys to know that that's one of the reasons why I'm here. Don't forget, you can text or call in and be involved in the show at 309-451-9299 is that number, 309-451-9299. If you have anything to add to the conversation, I would love for anybody to call in and be involved. Also, if you go on Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Rumble, anything like that, you can comment and I'll see your comments and I'll respond to them during breaks. But I got to take a break here on the radio, guys. Coming up next, why is the military changing its tune on wokeness? We're going to cover that and more here on Speechless, the news on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal and beyond. Okie dokie, everybody. How are you all doing? Let's see. Come on, comment section is a little light today. I want to see what you guys have to say. See Oklahoma Chicken Cam here. Falcon went off without a hitch. Now on to important stuff. Heck yeah. You're going to show up to class with your MAGA hat and then do it. I did, especially back in like 2020. I was doing stuff like that. And these people are crazy, Guillotine. Absolutely. Matthew, many commies will scurry away when confronted by true Americans and capitalists. Darn right. Because they can't oftentimes defend their position. And if they can, it's based in massive hypotheticals that aren't actually realistic. Ryan Mack of the Ryan Mack Show. The lefty professors hate when young conservatives stick up to them. Heck yeah. And thank you for the bravo. Heck yeah, everybody. Yep. Got a lot to cover here in terms of this military stuff. It's kind of interesting. You guys might have heard about it. I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. We'll see. I have another story I want to do. My next segment is very short. And so I have another story I'm going to do first. And then end out the first hour with a lot of the military stuff, just so you guys can understand my timeline a little bit. But I have another story I'm going to cover first. Just a short clip. Kind of funny. Well, thank you for your service, Oklahoma Chicken Cam. And from what I understand, you are right. I'm not in the military. I wouldn't mind being like a military attorney at some point, but um, so I don't understand all of it, but I can understand things that I see. And what I'm seeing right now is concerning, to say the least. Got more water. I always got to have a lot of water. I walked to work today too. It was a beautiful day out. Beautiful day out here in central Illinois in like the low 50s. Walked to work, like 2 miles. Okay, we're coming back here. Hey, Bloomington Normal, and welcome back to Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal and beyond. I'm your host, Kev Phares, 22-year-old conservative college student, almost not a college student anymore. Well, I plan on going, I am going to law school next year, so that'll be a little bit, it's still a college student in a way, but I'm almost graduated, which is crazy to think. 4 years, everybody, 4 years. 4.5 really for me. That's what happens when you do a double major. But everybody, you're listening to Speechless right now. I'm your host, Kev Phares. You can text or call into this show. Be involved in the conversation at 309-451-9299. If you've been listening since the last segment, you know at some point I'm going to get here to talk about the military's new advertising and how it is abandoning wokeness. But the segment is shorter, only like 3-4 minutes. So I wanted to build off of my last story that I talked about, where I discussed how I was assaulted by a professor for my beliefs. Now, why are people so deranged against conservatives to the point of which they feel the need in sometimes to verbally or physically assault somebody that they don't even know simply because they represent something that is diametrically opposed to whatever the other person believes in? Well, it's in part because of the media narrative. It's in part to the media narrative. Look, when somebody gets called, if a lefty gets called a communist, a lot of times it's true, but even if they're not, communist does not have the same stigma today as it did 60 years ago. You know what does have as similar of a stigma, if not worse? Nazi. And people like me, conservatives, people like you, all of us, we get called Nazis consistently, not only just by the average person, but that's a talking point that comes from people like this. And many of you know, Hillary Clinton, just an absolute terrible woman. But this was her on The View earlier last week. Take a listen.
People would get legitimately elected. Mm-hmm. And then they would try to do away with elections and do away with opposition and do away with a free press. And you could see it in countries where, well, Hitler was duly elected. That's right. Right? Yeah. And so all of a sudden, somebody with those tendencies, those dictatorial, authoritarian tendencies would be like, oh, okay, we're going to shut this down. We're going to throw these people in jail. And they didn't usually telegraph that. Trump is telling us what he intends to do.
Oh, so it's Trump. Trump's literally Hitler. That is what Hillary Clinton has to say. And so you want to know why. And I have no doubt that she genuinely believes that. But the irony is, which party is currently working on throwing their political opponents in jail? And not just Trump, but the people that were involved in January 6th, people that Owen Schroyer of, I don't always agree with him. I think he's a little bit crazy for me. Not always my thing, but he is literally sitting in a jail cell right now for speaking at the January 6th protests. Why do these people, I see I'm getting a caller. I'm going to take it during the break. But why do these people, why does your average liberal leftist get infuriated by my existence, by your existence? It's because they are led to believe that we are literally Hitler, which is not true. That is not true. But the lefties are programmed to believe it. Not all of them, but a lot of them. The ones that will rage at me simply because of what I believe in, those are the ones that are programmed. I don't know. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about the military and their changing of woke advertisements in the next longer segment. Stay tuned with me, guys. I got some facts, statistics, and answering the question, are we going into World War III? I'm led to believe so. And I'm going to tell you guys why in the next segment, but we'll be right back with more Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal and beyond. Cities 92.9, this is Kev. How can I help you? Yeah. Hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that perspective. Do you mind if I ask your name? Laura? Awesome. I'm going to bring that. Hmm? Thank you so much. I'm going to bring that up in my next segment, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Bye bye. Very nice caller there, Laura. Brought up some interesting stuff. I'll probably start off the next segment with. Sorry, I know I ignore you guys when I have to take those calls and stuff. Just what happens when I produce my own show. Just what happens. Just what happens. But it's okay. We're still here. Beauty and realism. Thank you for your service, OK Chicken Cam. As for the left, it's really odd to me that they are the most judgmental group, but expect the sane to not do the same while feeding their ideology. Absolutely. The leftists don't want to admit that their answers to the problems we face won't work in reality, and they don't want to face the consequences of poor decisions. It's not just that they don't want to face the consequences of their poor decisions. They know. They oftentimes know. They simply don't care. They simply don't care because a lot of what is going on with progressives in our government is they just want to expand government to where they don't care if it destroys the average economy because they want all government all the time. And so maybe your average just layman lefty doesn't want to face the decisions, but they're just not going to take accountability. Somehow it's going to be Republicans' faults because they weren't able to do everything that they wanted. And so it must be Republicans. It must be conservatives' faults. Those darn racists, as they would say. I'm getting things ready for because I got some clips and on-screen things to share in the next segment. But light up the comments section, guys. What else is going on with you guys this week? What's been going on? Don't forget, guys, to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment what you think, and definitely share it with your friends. We're making waves on YouTube, everybody. I have people that tell me also double check to make sure you are subscribed. I've had more than one people that are close to me, either friends, family, or family friends, that have said that they've subscribed multiple times, but it'll unsubscribe them for some reason. I have no doubt it's probably YouTube and shadow banning kind of stuff, but you can always double check to make sure you're subscribed and ring that notification bell, put it to all. But we'll be back here in about 15 seconds. We're going to get into this here. Okay, let's get back. Hey, and welcome back to Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. I'm your host, Kev Phares, 22-year-old conservative college student from Illinois State University, almost a college graduate. I know, I'm excited. I've been here doing this radio show for over 2 years now, and it has been an absolute pleasure, everybody. Announcements to come in the next weeks about what's going to happen with the radio show, and obviously I'll still be on YouTube and everything like that. I'm likely still going to be on the radio, but I'll make hardcore announcements in the next few weeks about that, so make sure you're staying tuned. And I wanted to let you guys know during the break, because I've been talking about my 4 years ago, how I was assaulted by a professor. And I had a caller call in, Laura. And I don't necessarily, I can't remember everything verbatim that she said, but Laura, thank you so much for calling and talking to me about how it speaks to a larger issue that we have. And it's similar to the jihadists in the Israel-Palestine conflict. And now I don't want to say that this professor is necessarily a Muslim extremist. I would say he's an extremist of a kind, but he is not doing nearly what absolute terrorists are doing. Still a bad guy, but we can recognize the different weights to those sins. But what she was saying is that it's not about having a dialogue to these people. It's not about finding common ground. It's not about trying to even find compromise on anything. They will not stop. Just like the jihadists and Hamas will not stop until Israel is absolutely destroyed. The leftists, the far radical ones. There are some people that are on the left that can have a conversation. I actually had one that I'm going to be posting to my YouTube channel sometime later this week. But leftists like this professor, they don't care. All they want is for us to be done. At least they want us to be silenced. They want us to be speechless. Pun absolutely intended on that one. But that is what they want. So, what do we do? What do we do when they want us to be speechless? We become louder than ever. And we expose when we notice things that do not add up. And this is a perfect example of that. So the military released a new advertisement this week. And I think it's quite interesting. It's only about 30 seconds long. But I want to share it. It seems like a run-of-the-mill military advertisement. And so I'm going to play the audio. I don't remember how much dialogue is in it, but I can always narrate a bit for the radio side of it. I'm also going to be showing it on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, Rumble, all that stuff. So if you log into one of those, you can actually see the advertisement for yourself. But here is the new advertisement that came out this last week from the United States military. Let me know in the comments, or you can text or call in at 309-451-9299 if you notice anything interesting about it. Stand up! White guys on a plane. That's what we see. And they're jumping out. Your greatest victories are never achieved alone. Be all you can be. For the United States Army. Relatively run-of-the-mill ad, right? That's what it would seem. Just a run-of-the-mill ad. It's be all you can be. You got a lot of guys on a plane jumping out of it, doing some kind of a training of some kind. Be all you can be. Some kind of inspirational music in the background. But that's not just a run-of-the-mill ad for the United States military anymore. No. About 2 years ago, the United States military came under great fire when they put out a consistent series called The Calling that told different stories of people that were in the military. It was also seen as an advertising campaign. And so it's only about 2 minutes long, and I'll comment throughout it, but let's just compare. So what we just saw and heard to what the military was putting out 2 years ago. Let's take a look and a listen here.
This is the story of a soldier who operates your nation's Patriot missile defense systems. It begins in California with a little girl raised by two moms.
Oh, yay. Why does this matter? It's a story of Emma. That's what it says on screen.
Although I had a fairly typical childhood, took ballet, played violin, I also marched for equality. I like to think I've been defending freedom from an early age. When I was 6 years old, one of my moms had an accident that left her paralyzed. Doctors said she might never walk again. But she tapped into my family's pride to get back on her feet, eventually standing at the altar to marry my other mom. With such powerful role models, I finished high school at the top of my class, and then attended UC Davis, where I joined a sorority full of other strong women. But as graduation approached, I began...
Go feminism! Go feminism! That's what this is put. Not only... they've done like every single... They've tried to hit as many victim groups as possible in this one story so far. They have lesbians being the two moms. So that's the LGBTQ stuff. One of them got injured, which, again, I'm not making fun of the injury or anything, but it's like the disability. That's the next one. And then feminism. It's a woman. It's a woman. Women are so strong. Women are so great. Say many are, but it's just the pandering of it all. There's more though. Let's keep listening.
And feeling like I'd been handed so much in life. A sorority girl stereotype. Sure, I'd spent my life around inspiring women. But what had I really achieved on my own? One of my sorority sisters was studying abroad in Italy. Another was climbing Mount Everest. I needed my own adventures, my own challenge. And after meeting with an army recruiter, I found it. A way to prove my inner strength and maybe shatter some stereotypes along the way. I'm U.S. Army Corporal Emma Malone Lord, and I answered my calling.
What calls you? So that is what the United States military put out 2 years ago. Very different, right? The one that they just put out last week has just a bunch of average white dudes jumping out of a helicopter. It used to be these stories about this, how diverse the military is, how the background, how she comes from a lesbian mom family, and the mom was disabled briefly, and she felt like she was just some other sorority chick, and she needed to do her own thing, and so she went into the army. Okay, you guys want to know the truth? You want to know the truth? 82% of our military consists of men. 82%. Overwhelming majority. 70% of our active duty men, so 70% of that 82% are white. So the vast majority of our military consists of white men. So when the military was putting out ads that were like, oh man, look at this strong feminist woman, they had other ones for people of color and everything, which is fine. I get it. I understand like that you want, that you're pushing, that you have different people of backgrounds, but how is that going to advertise when to the majority of the military? How do you think that's going to have, what kind of effect do you think that's going to be having on recruitment numbers? I can tell you, preview, it's poor, and we're going to get into that. But I also want to point out the fact that why does this matter for our military? Look, I personally, when it comes to, if I was in the military, and if you were in the military and you have an opinion on this, don't forget you can text or call in at 309-451-9299. I'd love to hear your perspective. If you're a veteran, were in the military, are in the military, anything like that. Because mine is just the way I see it. If I was in the military, which I'm not, but if I was, I wouldn't care if the person next to me had two moms or was black, white, Asian, anything like that, Hispanic. I don't care. What I care is that that person can have my back in a crisis situation. That's what I care about. So I don't care that about the military having diversity, equity, and inclusion. It doesn't have anything to do with the efficacy of the military. In fact, the stories they were telling were not representative of most in the military. Like I said, 82% of our military is men, 70% are white. Of those men are white. It's like 54% of the women that are in the military are white too. So most in the military also, this is another thing. Not only is it not representative in skin color, gender, everything like that, most of the military also lean towards conservative values. Consider this: hard work breeds success. That's conservative. That's military. The idea of a larger calling. Conservatives tend to look towards God, and many in the military do too, but at least to them, they also see that their service is to a larger calling to at least protect America. Integrity, respect to authorities and offices, even when you're in disagreement with their decisions, self-service, all of which are much more stressed by conservatives than liberals and are things preached within the military. Statistically, also, conservatives are more likely to volunteer for military service. Most of our military is not represented by the woke crap that the military was putting out. And those that are more likely to volunteer for military service, like I said, were not represented by it either. They were conservative white men. Those are the majority of people that are willing to stand up for or to volunteer for the military. And now the military is scrambling. NBC News last year in 2022 said every branch of the United States military is struggling to meet its fiscal year 2022 recruiting goals, say multiple U.S. military and defense officials. And numbers obtained by NBC News show both a record low percentage of young Americans eligible to serve and an even tinier fraction willing to consider it. Lieutenant General Thomas Spoer of the Heritage Foundation said this is the start of a long drought for military recruiting. He said the military has not had such a hard time signing recruits since 1973, the year the United States left Vietnam and the draft officially ended. Speer also said he does not he does not believe a revival of the draft is imminent, but 2022 is the year we question the sustainability of an all-volunteer force. So that was last year. Now I'm starting to believe when we have these changing advertisements, these changing messages, that maybe a draft is imminent, and it's going to be people like me. There's other things to point out, too. The pool of those eligible to join the military continues to shrink, with more young men and women than ever disqualified for obesity, drug use, or criminal records. Last month, Army Chief of Staff General James McConville testified before Congress that this was not actually last week. This is last week when the article was written last year. So last year, he tested before Congress that only 23% of Americans 17 to 24 are qualified to serve without a waiver to join, down from 29% in recent years. Less than a quarter of my generation is eligible to join the military because of obesity, drug use, or criminal records. That's insane. That's insane. And so when you have people telling you that, oh, it's okay that you're fat. It's okay that you're fat. We're going to set up places for you to do your drugs safely here in Portland, Oregon, or wherever they're doing that. Or, hey, your criminality, the criminal behavior you have, don't worry. You don't have to worry about cash bail. They're just going to let you out. Doesn't matter. Anybody who is pushing that does not want America to be able to defend itself. And those are also usually the same people that want to take away your guns too. So who do they not want to be? They don't want you to be able to defend yourself. They don't want the country to be able to defend itself. They don't care about America. There's more to cover with this about the enrollment in the military, or not enrollment, but the enlistment in the military, and just how staggering the numbers are and how low even young Americans feel about the military. And it's disgusting to me. Happy Veterans Day, everybody. I know there's a juxtaposition in those terms and everything, but it's because me telling this story, I want to let you know I have a vast amount of respect and gratitude for those that have served in our military. Thank you, thank you, thank you. My generation, by and large, though, does not see it the same way. And we're going to cover more of that in the next segment. God bless you. God bless America. And we'll be right back with more Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Oh, my God. Let's see what else we got people saying in here. Spent yesterday working at our local food pantry. So many folks in need, especially this time of year. Oklahoma Chicken Camp, you were just like such a good person. Thank you. Veteran, local servant, like you are living a virtuous life. And thank you for that. They want us to sit down, shut up, and take what they have to say. It's absolutely what it is. Yep, that's a major thing in that ad. It was not about wokeness at all. It was all young white men. Diverse woke stories don't win wars. None of your background matters. In the military, you're right. If they're gay or not, white or not, can they fight? For real. But the thing is that people in my generation can't even fight. The vast majority of them. I don't know if I would be disqualified. I've had a serious injury. I don't know if that I'm not obese. I don't think. I know the obesity numbers, like when you look to see like what weights are considered obese for people of ages and heights and everything, it's really surprising because it just shows you why the vast majority of Americans are obese, or at least considered in some way obese. People don't want to hear the truth because they don't want to accept the truth. The truth is both in God and life as we know it as humans. Absolutely. Absolutely, JRC. Thank you for that. Thank you. Thank all of you. I appreciate you for watching, for listening. Add more comments. And don't forget, if you want to be involved in the show, text or call in 309-451-9299. That's the number. This next segment's a short segment. I'm going to make it into, you guys know I usually do my motivational segment for my fourth segment in the first hour. That's what I'm going to do. But we'll be right back. Don't forget to share this video with your friends too, guys. I'd appreciate it. Keep growing the channel and keep the community growing as well. The more people I have watched, the more people that interact, the more people the more advancements I can make to the show too. I got to set up a home studio when I move home in a month. And so there's going to be some big changes there. I'm hoping they're for the better, for the channel and everything. I'm hoping. So there's that. I'm going to need to be able to get equipment for that and everything. And the more people that I have watching, if anybody is kind enough and wants to support the show, you could send a super chat or something like that. But what I'd highly recommend is if anybody would be interested in sending to my Venmo or my Cash App or anything, all the funds will go to cameras, mics, lighting, green screen, setup, everything like that. So if you'd like to support, I'd very much appreciate it. Or you could always so you could do everything through YouTube, memberships, anything like that. You can do all that stuff. Or there's also, if you want to get something out of it too, visit unitedmerch.com. Use code speechless at checkout for 20% off. I always talk about that when I'm not wearing one of their shirts right now. But I love United Merch. They're great. Conservative company. I met one of the main designers for them. He's a very nice guy. So definitely check them out and you can use my code for it. I'm going to start putting in the description of my videos too. I don't think I have it there, but I will. So that if you guys ever want to get some good conservative merchandise and also support my show and get a discount, that's one way you can do it. But once again, don't forget, you guys can always be involved in the show as well by texting or calling in at 309-451-9299. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. You guys can also use this if there's anything I ever miss, especially recently. I've been working on my law school applications. I have my classes wrapping up, like following the news. I have been following the news. I always follow the news, but I just feel like I'm not as in tune as I have been in the past simply because my life has gotten so busy. That's why also I've been lighter on content this week too, just because I've been quite busy with life. It happens to the best of us. This isn't my full-time job, but we're coming back here. Nothing's going to break my stride here. Hey, everybody. You're listening to Speechless. I'm your host, Kev Phares, 22-year-old conservative college student from Illinois State University. And this whole show so far, I've talked about a few different things. I've talked about how 4 years ago yesterday, was the anniversary of my assault by a professor. I've talked about how our military has abandoned wokeness to try to bring back young white men, which is the majority of our military is made up of white men. They used to have woke advertisements that pushed LGBTQ and having people of color and all that stuff. But now they're noticing, oh, maybe we're kind of in crisis mode. We got two wars that we've been indirectly a part of for quite some time now. One that's just sparking up Israel, Palestine. We also have Russia and Ukraine, and we are on the verge potentially of China and Taiwan. So maybe we need to start amping up our reserves again, or our base, which is young white men. And one thing I talked about is recruitment to the military has been significantly down. They haven't met their recruiting goals in quite a while. In fact, one thing that I was just talking about in the last segment was the pool of those eligible to join the military continues to shrink, with more young men and women than ever being disqualified for obesity, drug use, or criminal records. Only 23% of Americans ages 17 to 24 are qualified to serve without a waiver to join. Less than a quarter. If you know anybody that is within the ages of 17 to 24 and they are obese, they use drugs and or have a criminal record and are not working on any of those things, on being better. Look, I was definitely 7 months ago, I was definitely obese. For my height, my age, everything, I was definitely obese. And I've talked about it a lot of times on this show. I looked in the mirror and I said, I hate what I see. And so I did something about it. And I'm still not exactly where I want to be. Now I want to get more muscle, but I'm down 40 plus pounds. You can, I always hate when people are like, well, changes don't happen overnight. That's not totally true. Now, some changes do not happen overnight. It was not overnight that I lost all that weight. But I can tell you that the day that I was hating myself to the day that I was working on it wasn't overnight. It was not like one day it wasn't like it took me multiple days to realize I needed to make changes or something. No. One day I hated myself, and a long time before that I hated what I was looking at. And then I woke up one day and I said, I'm going to do something about it. And it was that day I switched to sugar-free Coke. When I drink soda, I started drinking a lot more water. I started walking to work. And it all started on that one day, the day that I said I needed to do something. Changes can happen overnight. You can wake up tomorrow. Heck, you could be listening right now on your radio, on Facebook, on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. And if there's something that you feel like you need to do better in your life, you can make the decision. You can make that change right now. You can do it. Whatever it is. I always go with weight loss because that's been the biggest change in my life recently. But you can make your changes. Focus on what you can control. You have a lot more control than you will ever realize. God gave us free will. You might as well use it. And use it for positive change. It can start today, everybody. I got more to talk about when it comes to the military recruitment, everything like that. But I'm just appalled that so much of my generation, more than 75%, would not be able to be a part of the military because of obesity, drug use, or criminal records. And I guarantee you the left wants that. We're going to talk more about in the next hour, everybody. God bless you. God bless America. We'll be right back. Stay tuned for more Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal and beyond. This, absolutely. Interesting. I don't know the full context, but I'd be very interested in learning more about why that happened. So I'm going to talk about this. There's some statistics on this that I want to talk about. but I also need to use the bathroom real quick, guys. I will be right back. Stay tuned for more Speechless. Thank you so much. I'll be Okie dokie, everybody. I'm back. I see JRC1. This is something I'm going to talk about. It's in my list for the next hour of something to talk about. So I will be giving my opinion on it. That is something I will be doing. So do not worry. Do not change that channel. I will be covering that. Do not worry. I will answer that question, and I appreciate you asking it and reminding me because that is something I wanted to talk about. So thank you. I don't know about the precedent, but it is something that I'm going to talk about. And we are back with Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. I'm your host, Kev Phares, 22-year-old conservative college student from Illinois State University. And I've been saying recently, I'm not going to be a college student anymore for too much longer. Well, I will again next fall, but I'm going to be graduating here in December. And I just always want to take the opportunity to thank everybody who has ever listened to this show. It has been an absolute honor and a blessing for me to consistently host live shows here for 2+ years. And I'm hoping to keep it going, but it's not going to be Kev, the college student anymore. It's going to be the Kev, the college graduate. And so I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in, whether this is your first time or you've been listening since the very beginning. I appreciate each and every one of you. I have a lot more to cover here today, but I just want to say once again, happy Veterans Day. Yesterday was Veterans Day, and thank each and every one of our service members who has either served and is still alive, whether everybody gave something so that we could have the America that we know and love. And I very much thank each and every veteran and their families. You're consistently within my prayers because of the absolute the selflessness that you have shown to America and its people. But speaking of the military, I've been talking about a few different things, and I'm going to make sure I bring it full circle as well in this story. I started off in part of the last hour talking about how the military has changed its advertising technique. It started in two years ago. The military was pushing LGBTQ, diversity, equity, and inclusion. We need people of color, all these things, which never once spoke to the actual efficacy of the military. We need women, feminism, everything like that. Well, now there's been a drought in military recruiting. Once again, just because I think this is so important, I've said it, this will be my third time saying it in a segment during the show. But the pool of those eligible to join the military continues to shrink, with more young men and women than ever being disqualified for obesity, drug use, or criminal records. 23% of Americans ages 17 to 24 are qualified to serve without a waiver to join, down from 29% in recent years. And both of those numbers are insanely low, Among Americans surveyed by the Pentagon who were in the target age range for recruiting, only 13% had parents who had served in the military, down from approximately 40% in 1995. The military considers parents one of the biggest influencers for service. An expert on military personnel policy says that the middle-class parents, including those who are newly middle class, often encourage their kids to go to college before selecting a career, which hurts recruiting for enlisted personnel. Go to college. That's been the norm, right? I even had a commenter on my YouTube channel that had said, as a fifth-generation military serviceman, I'm kind of pleasantly surprised that none of my children join for military service. In part, I'm sure, due to the woke messaging. But here's the facts. The fact of the matter is, the majority of the military, the people in the military, are conservative leaning at least. It's the people at the top, your General Mark Milley's, spineless people that haven't had anything to do with combat in, if ever, at least in a long time. Those are the people that are pushing the woke crap in the military, that are worried about how many people of color there are, everything like that. But here's what the left wants. The left wants some level of their ideology to be the focal point of every institution. The colleges were pretty easy. They got them. They've obviously been working on government. They're working on banks. I mean, you notice there are banks that have shut down access for people with certain groups that are conservative leaning. They're not allowed to use certain banks anymore. The truckers, remember the truckers that had like the GoFundMe and everything? They got their accounts frozen when they were driving across Canada and some in America against COVID restrictions and vaccines. The military was always harder to crack because of that more conservative mindset within them. But they were able to do it in two ways. The first, having people like your generals, having Congress question about the diversity and the level of people of color and of different identities in the military and those kinds of things. That was the first. So then they could pressure them to be more DEI friendly. And then the second is we don't even have a significant level of our population even eligible for military service due to obesity, drug use, and a criminal record, all of which are enabled by leftist policy and rhetoric. All of which are enabled by leftist policy and rhetoric. And I want to remind you guys that you could text or call into the show, be involved in the conversation at 309-451-9299 is that number, 309-451-9299. I want to know what you guys think about all of this. But when it comes to everything I've talked about, first, why is the military changing its advertising? Well, one, they need to start recruiting again, and they realize the people that are most likely to recruit are young white men, because 80% of our military are male and 70% of the men in our military are white. The majority of our military is young white men. So they need to start appealing to them again. Again, also usually conservative. Conservatives statistically are more likely to join the military and to enlist in the military. So conservative white men, they need to change their messaging. But why do they need to change their messaging? Why do they need to beef up recruitment? Because America, whether Joe Biden, whether Congress, whether any of our leaders will actually admit it or not, we are preparing for war. And this would become war. And I firmly believe it would become World War III. If we actually get further involved, if we start sending troops in any of the current conflicts. What do I mean by the current conflicts? Well, obviously we have Israel-Palestine, which broke out within the last month, which has been amazing. Like Ukraine and Russia, which has been going on for over a year now, was more divided within Republicans and Democrats. A significant portion of, honestly, the vast majority of Congress on both sides of the aisle wants at least some level of support going to the Middle East. Some are even in support of trying to send things for Palestine and everything like that, but the vast majority want resources going to Israel. And now I'm not against Israel in all of this. What I am against, though, is starting and getting involved in a war that we do not need to be involved in. And then the third conflict, which a lot of people are only just now starting to talk about, it's been something I've been talking about for over a year, is China and Taiwan, which is the one that should scare you the most. Because the majority of our technology in America, by and large, relies on a key component that is 90% of the world's supply is from Taiwan, and that's microchips. That's microchips. Majority come out of Taiwan. And so if China were to take control of Taiwan, our entire technological life that has basically been created is not only at risk, but then advancements, our ability to create some of the military equipment, also problematic. And so who are these fights really with, right? Because we're not really fighting against Palestine. No, we'd be fighting against Iran. We would be basically, if we got involved more in Ukraine, we would be directly fighting against Russia, but it's not just Russia. It's also China, who we'd also be directly fighting against if they actually do an invasion of Taiwan. Which, another thing to point out as well, is some are calling the idea of China going after Taiwan less and less likely. And it might be. China's population size has been decreasing in the last few years. And their global power is also seen as relatively decreasing. It has. But that is why I firmly believe that if a Taiwanese invasion were to happen from China, if China was going to invade Taiwan, it would be sooner rather than later, because they know that their power is shrinking. It's true. So, what does all this mean? Our military is trying to bulk up young white men to be ready to go fight, even though a lot of these progressives and these leftist zealots have demonized young white men for the last decade, if not more. Told them that they're the enemy, that they're the problem, that they're racists, that they're colonizers, that they're oppressors, they're the patriarchy. Oh, man, but now they want us to fight their wars. That's what they want, and I am against it. I'm firmly against it. There could be a draft. There could be. I don't know everything. I don't know everything, but I'm preparing for the worst because this would directly affect me, and I don't want to go fight in these wars. I would defend America. And we got too many problems that I'd be willing to help fight domestically, and that's what I'm trying to do here, to expose these things. Because instead of focusing on everything that's going on overseas, instead of focusing on all that, instead of getting involved in all these different conflicts and wars, we need to solve our own issues here. In terms of the China and Taiwan, I talked about the microchips. Why are we not focusing on domesticating that production, making it happen here in America? Why is that not one of our focuses? Why are we not taking preventative measures? Why are we only going to try to be the defense? Why? Likely because it lines the pockets of those in power that will never actually have to be affected by any of these issues. That's why. That's why we don't take preventative measures in this country. That's why we end up going into useless wars. As the quote goes, hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. Currently, we are in the transition period of hard times creating strong men. But if you think it's been hard so far with inflation, with the spending that we have sent to Ukraine, the aid that's trying to be pushed towards Israel and Gaza in that area, if you think any of that's been hard, just wait. I'm going to say it almost every show until the election day 2024, or until it becomes that I'm telling you it's happening right now. 2024 is going to be an insane year, everybody. We saw it's an election year, and it's a big election year. We saw what the left and what our powers that be were willing to do in 2016. And after 2016 with the whole Russia hoax, there were BLM riots, there were protests then, and then there was the Russia hoax. Definitively hoax, by the way. The Hillary Clinton, Obama, the left, Democrats, they all lied to you about it for years. Then we had 2020, where we had the scamdemic that literally destroyed not only lives, it destroyed our economy, it destroyed everybody's mood. We also had BLM riots then too, with martyr George Floyd, the fentanyl overdoser. So what are they willing to do in 2024? What are they willing to do? I have no idea, and it terrifies me. It absolutely does. It terrifies me. But what do you guys think? What do you think is going to happen in 2024? Am I wrong? Tell me I'm wrong. I'd love to be wrong. I would love for it to be totally hunky-dory. We get a Republican president back in. It's smooth sailing the whole way. I'd love for that. I would love for that. But I don't believe it. Some might say it's nihilistic. I say it's realistic. And while it sounds doom and gloom, everybody, it doesn't mean we stop fighting. Until my last breath, I will be fighting for this country. Until my last breath, I will be fighting for the America that we know and love. I still firmly, I've been clear, Trump is not my first pick for 2024, but I still firmly believe in the origin and meaning of make America great again. And we will. But it can't be just me. It's got to be all of us. And we got more we're going to talk about here, guys, coming up soon. We got the Pope kicking out a conservative bishop. We also have many students leading anti-Semitic hate events on college campuses are apparently not U.S. citizens. What should we do with them? We're going to talk about all this and more coming up soon on Speechless. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be right back. Ugh. How are you guys doing? How's everybody doing out there? Dallas is beating the Giants right now. That's a good sign. Okay. I will be back here in just about 2 minutes. And don't worry, I am going to get to the Pope Francis stuff. We'll be back soon, everybody. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment what you think, and share with your friends. Always do that. I'd appreciate it. And I hope you guys are having a wonderful Sunday. I know I can get angry in here. I've got to be. We all need to be a little angry. Now, we can't let it consume ourselves. Because if you let it consume yourself, then it becomes unhealthy. But we need to have a healthy level of anger against what is going on in the world right now. We absolutely do. Okay, we're coming back. Hey, Bloomington Normal. Welcome back to Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal and beyond. I'm your host, Kev Phares, 22-year-old conservative college student from Illinois State University, graduating in December. But thank you guys always for listening, and thank you whether this is your first time or you've been listening for years. I appreciate it. Don't forget, you can be involved in the show not only by going to watch on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, or Rumble. All you got to do is look up Speechless with Kev or Cities 929, and you'll be able to find it on those. But Speechless with Kev, you'll be able to see me in the studio. Look at me. I'm looking right into the camera, so it's like I'm looking right at you. You can comment what you think, everything like that. It's a lot of fun. Where it's just part of our technological advancements here at Cities 92.9 to bring you guys cutting edge content that no one else is saying, or at least in a way nobody else is saying it. Look, how many 22-year-old college kids do you know that have their own radio show? I'm sure there's others, but it's not many. And it's because Cities 92.9 understands that it's important to get the voices of young people out there, especially when they're the minority voice. And there's some young voices out there that are heavily troubled. As you guys may have known, even at ISU this last week, there have been a lot of pro-Palestine and in some ways pro-Hamas rallies across the country, especially on college campuses. Ivy League schools even have had them. But in a recent report out of the Daily Wire, many students that are leading these anti-Semitic hate events on college campuses are not even U.S. citizens. A statement from Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, this week explaining why the school did not follow through on its threat to suspend students involving involved in anti-Semitic hate events on campus, said that the school was concerned that the students could be deported. MIT President Sally Kornbluth issued a warning after Jewish and Israeli students said that they were scared for their physical safety and were prevented from going to class because of an anti-Semitic hate event, which started early Thursday morning, which was being held in a highly trafficked area. The president said that faculty had, quote, serious concerns that violence could erupt after counter-protesters showed up to voice their opinion. Quote, after exhausting all other avenues for de-escalating the situation, we informed all protesters that they must leave the lobby area within a set of time or they would be subject to suspension, she wrote. Many chose to leave, and I appreciate the cooperation, but some did not. Members of my team have been in dialogue with students all day because we later heard serious concerns about collateral consequences for the students, such as visa issues. We have decided as interim action that the students who remained after the deadline will be suspended from non-academic campus activities. She noted that according to MIT, 1/3 of its student population is comprised of foreign nationals who are in the U.S. on visas. The report said that there had been, quote, considerable speculation that many of the students at the forefront of the anti-Israel protests on campuses across the country are not United States citizens. This is really what we have going on our college campuses, people. You want to know why that the left doesn't care if our young people can read, write, do math? It's because 1/3 of MIT, what is known to be the premier math and technology institute, is comprised of people that are not even Americans. And look, this is not a race thing at all, because I know that the lefties will come after me and they'll be like, well, you're so mad about all these like foreigners and everything. I don't care if they're French, if they're German, if they're Irish. Might be a good drinking buddy if they're Irish, but the fact of the matter is, if we are bringing in all these other people from other countries to get educations, are they staying here afterwards to use that education? Or are they coming here on student visas, maybe spending money, sometimes getting scholarship for the fact that they are a foreign exchange student, and then do they go back to their country that they came from and utilize the education they got here to enrich their own country? Look, I firmly believe that in so many ways college is a scam right now, but why are we outsourcing or like bringing all of these people from other countries into the colleges? Americans should be given priority to get an education. And then not only that, we also have these students at the college campuses who are not Americans that are being not only anti-Semitic, but oftentimes pro-Hamas. And then what do they say? When they're pro-Hamas, what are they basically saying? Well, actually, interestingly enough, this is, I'm going to totally doctor this name, but Sheikh Dr. Ahmad Bahar, who used to be the acting speaker of the Palestinian Legislative Council and was a part of Hamas, said in 2007, this is from April 23rd. I see I'm getting a call. I will take that soon. But in April 23rd, 2007, he said, quote, this is the Palestinian speaker for the Legislative Council in 2007 said, quote, make us victorious over the community of infidels. Allah, take the Jews and their allies. Allah, take the Americans and their allies. Allah, annihilate them completely and do not leave any one of them. So if you are supporting and saying that Palestine is sinless, that Hamas is okay, then you are actively supporting the idea of the destruction of America. That is what Hamas, that is what Palestine, the Palestinian Legislative Council has said. And that's not the only time. That was just one of the first quotes I found. But that's not the only time that they have basically called for the death of America. So we have foreign nationals that are supporting groups that are not only anti-Semitic, but anti-American at college campuses. Deport them. They should be deported. Do it. Deport them. I only want people in this country that actually have, if you are an American, obviously be critical of America. I'm critical of American leaders and everything like that. But if you actively want the destruction of this country, you shouldn't be here. We shouldn't want them here. We shouldn't want that here. Why do we have that? I don't know. Ask Joe Biden. Maybe you can wake him up from his nap and figure it out. But we'll talk about more, guys. I have that. I'm going to talk about the Catholic Church and some more coming soon here. Don't worry. We got more Speechless coming up, but I do have to take a quick break here on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal and beyond. Stay tuned. All right, I got a caller. I'm going to see who this is. Cities 92.9, this is Cav. How can I help you? Hello? All right, seems like they hung up. Weird. Wasting my time. I always hate when people waste my time. Makes me unhappy. I hate when people waste my time. Maybe they'll call back. Maybe they won't. Could be an angry lefty. Check out, everybody. Check out the Ryan Mack Show. He's had some cool guests on recently, so definitely check it out. You can check out the Ryan Mack Show. Ryan, say in a comment that I can put on screen where to find your show, exactly what it's called. I'm pretty sure it's just called the Ryan Mack Show, but put all that and then I'll put it on screen so people can find it if they want to go watch or listen later. Doing a fantastic job. Thank you, Willie D. You're the best, and I appreciate you. But yeah, deport those students. I don't understand. In and of itself, I have a problem with the concept that 1/3 of MIT, 33% of MIT are foreign nationals. Are people that are not from America, are here on visas, whatever. Like, why are we not offering these up? Why is 33% of MIT is being offered to people that are likely not even going to use that education and the brilliance that actually can come out of MIT? They're not going to use it here. They're going to enrich their other countries. It's insane. It's insane, and I hate it. We live in troubling times, everybody. And that's a fact. I had to plug my phone in there. We'll be back in like 2-ish minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, everybody. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you're thinking about what I'm talking about. If there's any other stories in the next segment, I will get to Pope Francis removing a conservative Texas bishop. This is where the Ryan Mack Show is, everybody. If you want to learn more, Ryan's a great guy. I'll probably have him back on my show at some point. But he makes good content too. So you can go check out the Ryan Mack Show. The Ryan Mack Show. It's excellent. It's amazing. See, yes. And for the most part, I agree that but I have an issue with the fact that in America, this happened at U of I too, University of Illinois. Like we offer like stipends and everything. Like people are making it so that we're basically busing in a bunch of people from other countries to go to our colleges while rejecting American students from those universities. All right, I got a call I got to take. Cities 92.9, this is Kev. How can I help you? Andrea, how's it going? I'm making you mad? All right. Well, let's talk about it in the next segment. I'll be coming back in like a minute and a half or so, just under 2 minutes. And then I'll bring you on, okay? Sounds good. I got Andrea. Andrea's calling in. I'm making her mad, apparently. But yeah, everybody. When it comes to this, though, the foreign nationals with respect to the fall ball, see, again, we need to be prioritizing Americans. I have no problem with a small margin of foreign exchange students. Or if we're going to keep the same level of foreign exchange students that we have, there needs to be an amount of time that they have to work in America, for America. Because otherwise, we're letting them come here, we're letting them use our school systems, and then they just go right back. to wherever they came from and get everything, and they're not contributing back to American society. I'm going to keep this up for a little bit. If you guys want to check out the Ryan Mack Show, make sure you go check it out. Like, subscribe, share, everything like that. Ryan Mack, great guy, and I support him. So, a little bit older than me. I will say he's a little bit older than me. He doesn't have quite the same spunk that a young guy like me does, but he's a good guy. And he has some good interviews, too. And don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share, all that kind of stuff for my channel, too, because I love you guys. Each and every one of you. You're the best. You're amazing. My audience is the greatest audience ever to exist. And it's huge. It's huge. The following we got here on Speechless, it's absolutely huge, and we love it. It's amazing. All right, we're coming back. So you guys don't have to go through any more of my terrible Trump impression. Hey, and welcome back to Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. I'm your host, Kev Phares, 22-year-old conservative college student out of Illinois State University, soon to be graduated of Illinois State University. And I'm so excited for that. But I always get excited every Sunday from 3 to 5, where I get to come right here and talk to you guys. And that's exactly what I've been doing. We've had a lot of different conversations about the military abandoning its wokeness so that it can prep for World War III. You can go back and find that story on my YouTube channel, Speechless with Kev. Go check it out. You can also find me there live right now. But then I was talking about how we have these people, college students, that are, we all know, we've talked about it before on this show, that are protesting in support of Palestine, in support of Hamas, and are oftentimes being very anti-Semitic in their protests. And the majority of them are actually not even American citizens. They're here on student visas. And it's crazy. And apparently I lit a fire under one person who's a consistent caller onto this show. Her name's Andrea. And if you want to be a part of the show, don't forget you can text or call in at 309-451-9299. But here is Andrea, everybody. Andrea, how's it going?
Hey, Kev, how are you?
I'm doing good. So you called during the break, and the first thing you say to me is, Kev, you're making me angry today. Kev, you're making me angry today. What am I doing that's making you so angry?
Well, it's not you personally. It's just the complete and utter buffoonery that you are discussing. So first and foremost, I just hope every American that's getting up tomorrow, going to work, just knows that they are the new slave class working so that other countries and people from other countries can live a far better life than you're ever going to live.
Yep.
That is absolutely disgusting. These kids should be deported. Deport them. But you know who's not going to deport them? The government. Because the government now favors illegal immigrants. They favor these students over Americans. And I truly just do not know what it is going to take for Americans to wake up. I just do not know.
I think the government, I think you're right. The current government that we have would not deport it. However, you probably didn't. A lot of people didn't necessarily watch it, but at the Republican presidential primary debate this week, Ron DeSantis did actually point out that he had ordered public universities in his state to disband extremist pro-Palestinian groups and expressed that we should deport. He even said that we should deport foreign students who expressed any kind of support for Hamas. So I do think that under different leadership, radically different leadership, it could happen.
Well,
the sigh. Tell me what that sigh means, Andrea.
Well, because you know what my position is on this.
Well, you just want to disband the federal government as a whole.
Now I just want to disband the university. Like, I just think that it's time for Control-Alt-Delete. It's time for a hard reboot, because I do not understand how people can still support a system that is not working. And I'm just going to prove it to you. This is how little these people think of Americans, especially those white racist domestic terrorists, Americans, white supremacists, they're 100% willing. They just want you all to go. They want all you to go. That's what
I'm
they
aware.
want.
I'm aware. That's why I'll be gulag inmate number 1 if I have to be.
Well, you'll be in line right next to me, or I'll be greeting you at the gate, because I would fight so freaking hard for you not to go. No American citizen, after, especially after this, the witnessing of how this government treats our vets.
Yeah.
That should be the hard no right there. But I will tell you this. Know who I'm for being drafted? Know who I'm for 100% being drafted? I'm for an all-female draft. I am for a feminist draft. They say that they're as good as men. This is how you end the cancer that is feminism in this country. You just do an all-female draft. And let me tell you something, Kev. The second that rolls out, you know how many of these big empowered feminists, you know how many of them are going to throw on their apron and head right on back to the kitchen? Plenty.
I'm willing to bet even with an all-female draft, though, we'd still probably get some biological men in the current state of society.
No. I got news for you, Kev. Those men claiming to be women, if there was an all-female draft, they are going to, they're going to wipe off the eyeshadow and the lipstick, and they're going to go back to baseball caps and hoodies. I got news for you. Yeah. I just say, call the blessed. Call the blessed. And that's why I will never be in any type of position of power.
Well,
but Kev, I just want to say one thing to you. I've been listening to you for a long time. What you have accomplished and how much more polished you are and how much more fiery you are and how much more on it you are. Good job. Well done. So happy for you. So proud of you.
Thank you so much, Andrea. And of course, I always appreciate you calling in, always appreciate you listening, and your kind words mean more than you'll ever know. So thank you so much, Andrea.
I think you're great. Keep going.
Thank you. Everybody, that was Andrea, good friend, constantly calls in, and I always love when she does. And she made a lot of great points, despite the fact that she's a bit more of an anarchist, which is fine. But she also made some great points at the end with me, and I really do appreciate that. I appreciate everybody who listens, who interacts, who calls, who watches my YouTube videos, everything like that. Each and every one of you, I appreciate you so much, because the only reason why I've been able to get better at this and be a better host, be more polished, as anything that Andrea said, is because of my platform. But the platform I have only exists because of those that support it. And so thank each and every one of you, because the only reason I've gotten better is because of you. And if you want to be involved in the show in any way, don't forget, you can always check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Rumble, all that stuff, comment, or you could text or call in like Andrea just did at 309-451-9299. I appreciate it. But I do want to get into this story before the end of the show here, because it's important to me. As a Catholic, I'm a Catholic. A lot of people know this. I've had conversations with people about Catholicism, about Christianity versus Catholicism versus atheism, a lot of things like this. But this is something every conservative, whether you're a Catholic or not, should be mad about. Pope Francis has removed a conservative Texas bishop who was consistently critical of the Vatican. Out of Fox News, Pope Francis has removed the leader of the Diocese of Tyler, Texas, a conservative bishop who became a vocal critic of the pontiff, even accusing him earlier this year of undermining the Catholic faith. The Vatican made the announcement in one line at the end of its Holy See bulletin Saturday, saying that he had been, quote, removed from the, quote, pastoral care of the diocese, and the bishop, Joe Vasquez of Austin, was appointed as interim apostolic administrator. In a May 12th tweet, Bishop Joseph Strickland wrote, quote, I believe Pope Francis is the Pope, but it is time for me to say that I reject his program of undermining the deposit of faith. Follow Jesus. He has also became the subject of a Vatican investigation this year, and he promised at the time that he would not voluntarily resign. There's been other people that have been removed from their positions, but it's very, very rare in the Catholic Church. This is a very, very extreme case. Oftentimes people are removed only when they refuse to resign. Usually they're given the option to resign. There have been people like former Bishop Richard Sitka of Knoxville, Tennessee, that resigned earlier this year amid reports that he mishandled a sex abuse allegation and things such as that. The thing that's really should scare each and every one of you is that the only reason that it can seem that this bishop was removed was because of his criticisms of the Pope, criticisms in which a lot of Catholics I know have. Strickland has been maintained that the Roman Catholic Church has become, quote, weak under the leadership of the current pontiff and challenged Francis to fire him. He has also retweeted a video blasting Pope Francis as, quote, a diabolically disoriented clown. Strickland has also criticized President Biden on issues like abortion. The bishop told LifeSite News that part of the reason he was removed was because he refused one of Pope Francis's progressive reforms restricting the Old Latin Mass. Strickland said he refused, quote, because I can't starve out part of my flock. I feel very much at peace in the Lord and the truth that he died for. Right now, Catholics are in kind of disarray, most of which that I know in the conservative sphere are very critical of Pope Francis for taking somewhat more progressive approaches, at least in messaging, on ideas of abortion, on gay marriage. And even with things like restricting Latin masses. He is not a traditionalist. And if there's anything that conservatives and a lot of Catholics can get behind, it's the idea of tradition and the importance of tradition. And right now, we have a bishop that was removed for being critical of the powers that be. That's the thing. So when it comes to the Pope, a lot of people who are not Catholic don't realize this. The Pope is like the president in a way of the Catholic faith. But he is not, every time he speaks, it's not necessarily the word of God. He is very much a political figure. And so if you believe in free speech, if you believe that we should have criticism of those who are in power, then you absolutely should be able to be critical of the Pope when he's not speaking in the chair. Forgot which saint it's for. I know that makes me a bad Catholic. Correct me in the comments of it or anything. But when he's not speaking in a saint's chair, I forgot which saint it was. I'll look it up during the break. That's the only time that he's speaking from the word of God. Pope Francis has become very much a progressive icon, and I think it's due to the changing times, and he's noticing church attendance is low. But it should not be about what church attendance is like. It should be about the fact that there are still believers out there, and to abandon what you believe for the sake of attendance is not following the faith. It is not following the faith. Every single Christian and Catholic and conservative should be outraged by this move from the Pope. I'm incredibly mad about it. Honestly, we should have protests. I believe there probably will be protests, if not in the Vatican, at least outside our National Catholic Church in D.C. There should be. I firmly believe it. I'm outraged. This is terrible. And only another reason why I'm going to be critical and wish that we had JP2 back as the Vatican, or as the Pope in the Vatican. But that's my belief. We'll be right back. I got a small story to cover in the last segment. God bless you. God bless America. We'll be right back with more Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal and beyond. In terms of the conversation we were having earlier, Amanda, I agreed. Deport these people out of America. So, funny thing is, this actually is not even a college radio station. My college radio station would never let me on it. This is a local radio station near my college. Because I always get asked people are always like, oh, you host a radio show. Like, do you do it with WGLT, which is our college radio station? I'm like, God, no. They would not let me on there. I am too extremist for them. So yeah, so I honestly would say support young people in radio, but make sure you choose the individuals, because if you support college radio as a whole, you could be supporting some woke crap. You could be. You likely are, depending on the station. There you go. You used to cut PSAs? That's awesome, Oklahoma Chicken Cam. Back in the 80s. The wheat heart of northern Oklahoma. Good old Okie. No. Don't be mad. Don't be sad or anything. I'm just saying. Because I get asked all the time, and I just, I'm not a big fan of our college radio station, I'm sure there's some good ones out there. I'm just not a fan of ours. They've won awards and stuff. I just don't like it because I know people that work at it. It's woke, or at least the people there are woke. Some of them. One of the leaders of it is like hardcore libertarian, though. Andrea, you might get along with him. But he's like hardcore libertarian. One of the managers. You know what I hate? It's almost dark out. I hate that. That's the one thing. I don't know. I've never been somebody, the hill I'm not going to die on is ending daylight savings time. It's not my thing. I don't need to die on that hill. I'm really one way or the other on it, because no matter what, the days get shorter. But one thing I do hate about it at this time of year is that it is just about 5 o'clock. And by the time I'm done with the show and everything, by the time I'm getting to go home, it'll look like it's like 7:30, 8 p.m. out there. And that always pees me off. That really grinds my gears. I'm going to start a segment. Things that grind my gears. So there's a lot of things that grind my gears. There's going to be big things. When I move home and I set up my home studio, it'll be a lot easier for me to create content. Once I get all the equipment too. But it'll be a lot easier for me to create content. And so I'm going to plan some things. I think Ty Smith and I were talking about possibly doing like a monthly show together on like a Friday or something, where we'll just sit down. I think we're going to call it like Black and White. Let me know what you guys think about that. I think it'd be cool. And Ty seems really open to it, but his schedule is constantly changing. So we'll see if it actually happens. But that's something that him and I were talking about at one point. Be coming back here in just over a minute, everybody. One more segment. And I'm going to cover something that I talked about in one of my YouTube videos earlier this week, just because I think it's important, but I'm going to truncate the segment a lot. But I also want to know what you guys think. So don't forget, leave a comment. Let me know. I'm interested. I got to get a haircut soon. Oof. It's long. It's untamable. Uncontrollable. But we'll be back soon with this story. 30 seconds or so, 30 to 40. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. See, I have Dallas is actually Dallas is my defense. So on my fantasy team. So I'm a big fan of it. All right. Last segment. Let's go. I got to keep on moving, everybody. And you're listening to Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. I'm your host, Kev Phares. Thank you so much for tuning in. I've been covering a lot of different stories here today, such as how the military has changed its tune from woke back to white. Young white men is who they're targeting again, as that's what consists the majority. That's what makes up the majority of our military. I talked a little bit about how we have a lot of the college protesters that are pro-Palestine, pro-Hamas. They're actually not even American citizens. They're here on visas. Very interesting. If you want to catch any of those stories and more that I've talked about in this show today, you can go check out all that stuff on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Rumble. All you got to do is look up Cities 92.9 or Speechless with Kev, and you'll find me. You'll see my bright and smiling, shiny face that everybody always tells me was made for radio. But alas, I still put it on to YouTube and all that stuff. So go check it out. I'd appreciate it. But in my few minutes I have left here, there was one story I covered a little bit on my YouTube channel this week, but I found it interesting and worth sharing and relevant to a broader theme. And you might have heard about it. But a part of the transgender Nashville shooter with an alleged manifesto, 3 pages out of that were allegedly leaked this week by popular commentator Steven Crowder. A lot of it was consumed by leftist radical hatred targeting whites as privileged. And when I look at the document here, again, some of this is a little scary, honestly, when you read it. It's like one of the pages at the very top. It says Death Day. It does, for real. It says Death Day at the top. It uses a litany of white slurs. Starts with a C. I'll let you assume what it is. White slurs. When talking about the children at the Christian school that Audrey Hale, the transgender shooter, went to, she said things like, "I hope my victims aren't ready. I'm ready. I hope there's a high death count. Ready to die. Ha ha." This is a sick individual. "Kill those crackers" is one thing that it says on there. Going to private fancy schools with those fancy khakis and sports backpacks. Obviously hates, it even says with their daddy's Mustangs and convertibles. Then more explicit language. It's terrible. And then here's a crazy thing. In the rest of the manifesto, or at least what was leaked, it said that Audrey had a final videotape that would be about 10 minutes long. Where is that videotape? Where is that videotape? The public deserves answers. We truly, every other time there's a shooter or there's like a domestic terrorist incident that fits the left's narrative, we know everything about them. We know their motivations. We know why we know who they were targeting, if it was anybody. We know their mental illness. We know everything. But we don't know. We don't know. We haven't been released this manifesto, which the public deserves to see. It's been held up in court. Why? Because it doesn't fit the narrative. The point of all this, Audrey Hale, as we can see from this, hated everything she was taught to hate. She hated her race. She hated her female gender. She hated her Christian faith. She hated children with fathers. She is the direct product of the Democrat agenda, the liberal agenda, the leftist agenda that seeks to indoctrinate and spread hatred, all in the name of inclusion. So be weary. Stay ready, everybody. Always be ready. And I know it's doom and gloom, everybody, but don't worry. We're gonna find the best in all of it. So thank you so much for tuning in this week, everybody. I'll be right back here. Same bat time, same bat channel next week from 3 to 5. More Speechless. God bless you. God bless America. And until next time, thank you so much for listening to Speechless. I'm your host, Kev Phares. Everybody on YouTube, Facebook, everything like that, thank you so much for tuning in. Ryan Mack, I see you say such kind words. I'm excited for your future, and I really appreciate all you've done to help me and the advice you've given me for my own show. Always reach out, man. Always do. If anybody, I'll put my email up there. If anybody's looking for podcasting advice or anything, any questions, story tips, anything, always reach out. I'm more than accessible, except for when I'm not, which I say jokingly. I always try to be accessible. I'm very busy. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you for all your comments, everything consistently. I got to get out of here. I got to go home in the dark. But God bless you. God bless America. And until next time, you've been watching Speechless.